This is IWitness, 2 Corinthians 9. For as touching the ministering to the saints, it is superfluous for me to write to you, for I know the forwardness of your mind, for which I boast of you, to them of Macedonia, that Achaia was ready a year ago, and your zeal hath provoked very many. I'm sorry, I love that. We'll come back to that. Verse 3. Yet have I sent the brethren, lest our boasting of you should be in vain in this behalf, that, as I said, you may be ready, lest haply, if they of Macedonia come with me and find you unprepared, we, that we, say not ye, should be ashamed in this same confident boasting. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren, that they would go before unto you, and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof ye had noticed before, that the same might be ready, as a matter of bounty, and not as of covetousness. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart. So let him give, not grudgingly, or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. As it is written, He hath dispersed abroad, He hath given to the poor, His righteousness remaineth forever. Now that He ministereth seed to the sower, both minister bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, being enriched in everything all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to God. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto God. Whiles by the experiment, of this ministration, they glorify God for your professed subjection unto the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal distribution unto them, and unto all men, and by their prayer for you, which long after you for the exceeding grace of God in you, thanks be unto God for His unspeakable gift. That's it for
that's it?
chapter. Yes.
All right. Excellent. So, just a brief summary. I think that it's pretty straightforward, right? If you sow sparingly, you shall reap also sparingly. I think that's kind of the main point there, because they're using, again, an analogy of, not that everybody understands agriculture, that you sow, you put things in the ground, that planting.
Seeds.
Yeah. And then you reap. So if you were to plant like 2 seeds, you'll probably reap nothing.
Oh my goodness, it can be that way, yes.
Yes. But if you plant more seeds, you'll probably reap more, as we kind of found out because we start trying to grow things ourselves. So it's...
gardening, a fun challenge.
But also it is amazing because you put it there, you put some water there, and it grows at some point in time.
Most of it grows. See, that's the thing. There's always a percentage that doesn't quite make it.
Yes.
It gets too wet, or it's not wet enough. The seeds, they don't quite take. They don't sprout. Some of them spoil, which is strange. And they're in the same soil. Not everything does the same thing, even when it's treated the same way. Seeds are very tricky like that. And I think that that's very good analogy for the Word of God, for being able to, plant the seeds in the heart of men, sure, but also... This kind of applies, in my opinion, to, last time we were talking about it's not really about money. It can be. Like this, in my opinion, this analogy also applies to how you use what the Lord gives you. It's not always money. This is that, talents thing that we talk about in the Bible, where you can give, I know talent was a coin, but there is... a way to interpret it where you're talking about your actual talent, and are you using what the Lord gave you, your wealth, your talent, your ability, your presence, are you using it in a way that it's multiplying itself or that the Lord is able to multiply it.
Yes.
Because the thing about God is he can make more plants than you planted seeds.
Yeah.
So there's no reason that if you are confident in the abundance of God, that you can't approach everything in that way in your life.
Okay.
That you can give. But again, don't just think about money. Yes, money. Okay, sure. But your time, your talent, your effort, there's a lot that you can give that God can multiply back to you in ways that you couldn't imagine.
Yes.
It's too vast a subject.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
All right. So, as I look at this going into probably more of a longer discussion, this is another thing where it's it flips back and forth between analogy and literal. And sometimes it's mixed. Like you were talking about, and when we were talking about the last chapter, we can do more than one thing. You know,
Yes.
I mean,
Especially
totally.
if we support each other as believers.
And I mean, the Creator God is hearing prayers and doing things and maintaining the universe. It is possible for us, we're not just one-trick ponies, to be able to do more than one thing, right? And I could see how someone could take these verses and try and twist it, right? And make it only about the physical stuff, and then be like, give us money,
Right.
talking about the same thing, Now he that ministereth seed to the sower, both minister bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, being rich in everything to all bountifulness, was causeth through us thanksgiving to God. This is kind of both. Yeah, they're talking about bread, but it's about more than that. It's about that spiritual seed. It's about going out, especially when it's talking about righteousness. We're talking about something else. This goes back to the parable of the sower, even if you wanted to, connect those two, right? That Jesus talked about. That it's not just the physical. It's not just we need to pay the mortgage for the church building and pay the lights and pay for the youth pastor and all the rest of that kind of stuff. You're getting too squeezed into just the material. You're being too materialistic. I don't mean greedy. I mean how some people talk about where it's only the material plane.
Too focused
It's only the physical
on the
and not
earthly
the spiritual.
stuff. Yeah.
Right?
Right. Like, what are you putting into the community? And I'm going to use this word, even though I kind of jokingly use it in real life. Vibes. What vibes are the church
Yes.
putting into the community? Because if you are not putting anything out there at all, including vibes, maybe you have a festival and you invite people. Cool. Maybe you have a cookout and you invite people. It doesn't always have to cost money. Maybe your church wants to do performances. You've got that whole property. Come on. Like, maybe you have to get a permit, whatever. You're a nonprofit, right? You shouldn't be that expensive. I don't know. But, you have a whole facility. Like, you could invite people and you could do things. And there's no reason not to get involved with the community in some kind of way. If you're not even throwing vibes, you're not going to get any vibes in return. I hate to use that word, but people get it. Like, I think you get it. Like, I'm talking Jesus vibes, though. I'm talking about, like, you're a church who, when people experience you, you're a set of believers who, when people meet you, you have something. They may not figure out what it is in the first time they meet you or the first few times they meet you, but they keep coming back to the church, or they keep coming back to you and having a conversation at the water cooler at work, or they keep, wondering and eventually ask you, why do you smile? Why do you seem happy all the time? Yes, someone has asked me that. More than one person, actually. Because that's not something people see all the time. I have the joy that God has given me, and I can't help but show it. If you're not, if people aren't like, hey, there's something about you, maybe they're not like that all the time. But I would say that of the church, too. If the community is not like, there's something going on there and I want to find out about it, and I'm not talking about, you've got a children's choir program or you've got babysitting, and that's fine. The programs are fine. But does the community even know that you're there? Could you be a closed church that shut down because of the pandemic? Could you, and they wouldn't even know the difference?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you not transition to the internet? Sure, okay, fine. But then you also didn't manage to rally after it was okay,
Yeah.
according to the government, to, worship the Lord. I mean, I'm just saying, what are the vibes? What are the vibes? Not and it's hard to not think about, what are you experiencing every week? And you should definitely pull that apart and see what you think about it. What are you experiencing when you go to church? Is this something that's building you up as a believer? Is this something that's feeding you spiritually? But what are we doing for the community? What are we doing for other people? Are other people going, oh, that church, that place is different?
Yeah.
Maybe they can't even explain why.
And I think this is important, the stuff we were talking about, fruit, righteousness, that kind of stuff, because it seems like, and we're talking about places in the United States because we're in the United States.
Right, of course.
There's not a whole lot of fruit being given, spiritual fruit. They're not producing things in a spiritual, positive sense. Too many of these places, and that's why we talk about this, because they are not doing as they need to do. And I will try to be brief about why we think some of these things are happening, right? First, I'll give an analogy. These churches, somebody gave another one, I won't do that. They're not actually following Jesus. They're more like a circus. And Jesus is an elephant to them. And they say, we're an elephant circus, right? The elephant is the attraction to get people in. But what is the purpose of what you do? Your purpose is to get people in the seats and have them pay money. Is that what you're here for? Are you more like a den of wolves? A den of wolves, elephant circus?
Okay, that's too much analogy for some people. Reel it in, baby. Okay.
Because we heard somebody say who supposedly goes to some Christian church, and she's like, everybody's fake here. And I was like, so you're all wolves.
That's not what you want people to be saying about your church.
You're all wolves in sheep's clothing.
That's worse than the drums are too loud for sure, or the color of the carpet is terrible. I mean, honestly, everybody should not be fake at church. Everybody should not be, telling everybody everything, but also they should not be hiding the wounds inflicted upon them by this wicked planet, and the people in it. It's, we go to church and okay. I'm sorry, we just hit one of my pet peeves and I can't help it. We go to church and we're very, we have to look a certain way, a certain acceptable way, okay? Mm-hmm. We have to behave a certain acceptable way. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how was this week? Yeah, everything was fine. Everything was fine. Stop saying everything was fine. Everything is not fine. Mm-hmm. You know what? Just go there and be ready to worship the Lord. And whether he shows up or not. Eventually, if you show up expecting God, whether the preacher expects him or not, God will show up and that'll really shake things, let me tell you. And that's going to be a fun day. So try. Just go to church and expect God. In spite of whether or not you have a clean polo shirt and khakis. In spite of whether or not the children actually bothered to eat breakfast and are probably going to be crabby and you might get called into the nursery. In spite of how you feel because you know you have to go to work tomorrow and you're already thinking about it. Just go to church, try to expect God. And if for some reason God does not show up in a certain period of time, which is reasonable, I would say within 30 days. If God does not show up and you have showed up every time you go to church and you have prayed at home and you have asked the Lord, and if you have a situation where God is showing up everywhere but church, in 30 days you got to go someplace else. Ask the Lord where you should be because that ain't it. Don't go to church and be fake.
Oh, no.
Stop telling everybody you're fine. It's okay to be honest, but not, awful. You can be honest and not be awful. How are you doing today? I'm hungry.
I'm not
How are you doing today?
As well as I was yesterday.
There you go.
things are weighing down on me. You can say things like that.
Yeah, people get shocked when you start to get real with them. Oh, get real with them in church, please. Saints, tell people the truth in church. If you are going to tell the people, if you're going to tell anybody the truth, tell the church people the truth. How are you doing? Well, one of the children is only wearing one sock, and two of them may or may not have lice. I don't know, but we had to come here because this is the only break that we have had all week because I'm working 2 jobs. And she babysits and door dashes. Okay, look, I'm just saying, it's okay to tell the truth. Let the shepherd at the church hear the truth. What's going to happen if you guys all get real with each other? Maybe God will show up. Maybe the church will send a vibe into the community.
By shepherd, you mean Jesus, the actual good shepherd.
Yes, the church needs to get focused on Jesus.
Yes.
That would be great. That would be great.
And not just have them as...
There are plenty of other places to be fake.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else?
This is IWitness. That was chapter 9.